Hi, this is our third video on the latter prophets, the second section of the Old Testament. And we'll be looking today at Nahum through Malachi. To review about the minor prophets are called minor prophets, just mainly because of their size relative to the length of the major prophets of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. Hosea and Zechariah are the longest of the minor prophets with 14 chapters each. Joel has 4 chapters in Hebrew and 3 in English. Amos has 9 chapters. And then from there, they're considerably shorter. Obadiah has only 21 verses. Jonah, 4 chapters. Micah, 7. Nahum, 3. Habakkuk, 3. Zephaniah, 3. Haggai, 2. And Malachi bringing up the rear with 4 chapters. Some of the themes of Nahum to Malachi. Nahum is concerned with particular dislike or distaste for Nineveh and Assyria. Assyria was one of the empires that was ruling over the ancient Near East in its turn. And Nahum can be set against the book of Jonah, as Jonah seems to have a particular concern or support of Nineveh, even suggesting that God could redeem Nineveh. Habakkuk is concerned with the justice of God. He wants to know how God could tolerate the evil of the Babylonians, using the Babylonians to punish the nation of Israel. Zephaniah is also concerned with the pure worship of God, as are most of the prophets. Haggai and Zechariah are prophets after the exile. They're concerned with picking up life after this great punishment has happened. Haggai in particular is concerned about the rebuilding of the temple, wanting to know why the people are taking so long to rebuild God's temple. And he's even suggesting that the second temple will be even greater than the first one. And Malachi at the end is also concerned with faithfulness to God. Like many of the other prophets, the prophets in general were concerned about true faithfulness, true worship to God, not diluting the worship of God with the worship of other gods. The prophet Elijah is concerned about this in particular. He's doesn't have a book named after him, but he's has a significant role to play in the books of Kings. And he says to the Israelites, "Why are you limping along between two opinions? Either Yahweh is God or Baal is God. And whichever one is the true God, that is the one you should worship. You shouldn't mix the worship of the two gods together like that." The minor prophets are often considered as a whole in the Hebrew tradition. They weren't really divided up into 12 separate books. The individual prophecies in the individual books did go back to particular prophets, but the collection as a whole was transmitted together. And as was said in the earlier video, the book of Jonah, or the prophet Jonah rather, shows up in the book of 2 Kings, and the prophet Micah shows up in the book of Jeremiah. There's no real discernible order to their placement. They're like when we're going through the number of chapters, there are some long ones right next to some shorter ones, and then long ones again. And there's a mixture of prophets that preach to the south and prophets that preach to the north. The minor prophets as a whole, in spite of all their different emphases and the different time periods they come from, and even the different communities they preach to, they're all generally concerned with the true worship of God over against the worship of other gods. In earlier videos on the prophets, we saw how the prophetic movement was really the thing that cemented the idea of monotheism, that that the God of Israel is the only God over all of the nations of the earth. This brings to a conclusion our discussion of the prophetic books in the Hebrew Old Testament. These include both books that we would normally call historical books and also the kinds of books that we usually understand when we talk about prophets. And all of these books together, both the history and the reporting of the preaching of the prophets, they're all concerned with the true worship of the true God and what it means to live in relationship, to live in covenant relationship with Israel's God. Israel's God is the one who established the covenant regardless or without the people having to do anything in order to earn that relationship. But the prophets are always calling the people back, always calling the people to repentance, to restore the relationship with God that God had first established. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.